The Graphic Histories Podcast.
I got bit by a radioactive bug. I tried an experimental drug. Went up for a stroll on a gamma testing range. I found an enchanted hurricane. I made a serum that made me small. I modified the serum so it would make me tall. Radioactive isotope in my eyes. Dying alien helped me accessorize. I gained the proportion and strength of a spider. Now I'm invincible and I can fly. I lost my sight, my other senses were heightened. I'm gonna put on my pajamas and go fight crime.
Hey, you know what time it is? That's right. It's Graphic Histories Podcast time. And big thanks to Luca Lamach for our theme song, Superpowers, and big thanks to you, gentle listener, for tuning in. I am Andre Mayette, your host. Today we are talking with Becka Kinzie, independent comic creator and Joe Shuster Award winner from Ontario, who has done her own cool little books. Very excited. Actually got a few in order. I'm excited to be able to read them. But a great conversation with another homegrown talent that's kind of part of that really hip, fun Toronto comic scene. Talked to quite a few people from there. She has connections to a lot of them because the industry seems, like a fraternity there. People look out for each other and are kind of supporting and hold each other up, which is really cool. And you find that with most groups of artists, but it's nice that the comic artist collective kind of in Toronto are looking out for each other. It really warms my heart. Me and Becca have a great conversation, a lot about her art, where she came from, her interest in horror films, and how that's sort of translated into the books she makes. And obviously as a big horror fan myself, we had a lot to talk about. And great conversation. You know, we have these kind of talks sometimes where it's like really interview based, where they're kind of waiting for me to ask them a question. Some that just flow like a full conversation. Some that are kind of a combination of the two. And sometimes I sort of lock in with someone in a way that they're really into the same things I am. And we talk about them. We talk about their life. We also talk about a lot of the cool things that we love. And it was a great conversation. Becca's one of those. So I hope you will like that as well. As I record these far in advance, I don't usually talk about what's going on in the world because usually it's like a month out from whenever, whatever's happening in the world has happened. However, I have just finished watching the show Russian Doll Season 2, and it took me a while to get to it. I like Season 1 a lot, and I finally got around to Season 2, which kind of takes the linchpin of it and changes it, shifts it slightly. But it's a really cool show. And it's really fun. It has a lot to say, sort of about generational trauma, about accepting the past, about dealing with your own complicated histories and that of your family. And it's super, super good. Really, really dig it. And if you haven't checked it out, I suggest you check it out too. One thing you should check out is all the other episodes of this show. There are many, many episodes, as this is episode 83. We have all the way from 0 to 83 in your feed. And we don't have paywalls or anything. It's all wide open. So go back, listen to some great episodes. Ukla the Mock does her theme song. I talked to them. We have one not too long ago with Eric Larson. We have Mark Russell. We have Mike Ruth, Troy Little, Brenda Hickey. Lots of cool folks all down the line. So go and check out those episodes. And spread the word as much as you can. I also want to just give a little shout out to my producer, Davin, who works tirelessly to bring me some of the talent that are on the show to interview. And he's a good guy, and he does a great job at talent relations. You can also check him and I out over on X-Rated, the X-Men Anime Review Show, which we are currently discussing X-Men 97, which is a freaking blast. It's a super good show. Anyway, I kind of on a time crunch while I'm recording these, so I'm not going to give you too big of an intro. I don't need to expound upon life and existence and deal with my existential dread through talking to you this time. But, I'll just double it up next time. All right, so here's my chat with Becka Kinzie.
Screw it. Anyway, hello.
Hey, it's mostly audio only. I just use the video sometimes to promote it just on Reels, and just small clips though. Well,
Okay,
I
cool.
appreciate you joining me from your underground bunker. It looks like where are you?
Yeah, some leftover '90s wallpaper.
Oh, really? It looks very stone-like. It's very, very, it's very cool.
Thank you. Your background looks great. I see some gremlins back there.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan. Yeah, there's another one over there. The flasher one.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, most of the joy of these conversations is just chatting with people that are like, looking at the various nerdy things in their backgrounds. So
Yeah.
awesome. So
That's awesome.
you were in Ontario, is that correct?
Yeah, southwestern Ontario.
Ah, right
Just
on.
yeah, outside of Toronto. So
Ah, all
yeah.
right. Close.
And you were
Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia, that's right. You did
Yeah,
say that. Yeah.
way on the other side. Well,
Okay.
halfway through, I guess.
Mhm.
I was in Toronto in winter. It was actually the first time I've been there in quite a while. I might be going back
Mhm.
up for a concert in September. I have a friend that lives in Alliston. Is that a place? That's a
Okay.
place. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but he's got a big place out there, and he does a lot of business stuff in Toronto. So usually I go
Oh,
up and
cool.
crash with him and go check out the scene.
Hmm.
So you from there
Awesome.
originally?
No, I've always been in Kitchener, Waterloo, but my family, one side of them did originally come from Toronto.
No.
So yeah, they moved out here in like the 60s or something and been here ever since. But we go back and forth to visit, Toronto often.
Yeah.
So
Nice
yeah,
area.
yeah, very nice.
What did your folks do when you were growing up?
Um, let's see, my mom was a teenager when she moved to Kitchener,
Hmm.
basically. So then she just ended up staying over here and got married. So and got a job here.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, apparently the old neighborhood is still there, apparently, which
Really?
is surprising. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So yeah.
For jobs, what did your folks do?
Okay, so my dad's semi-retired, but he works for Honda.
Hmm.
Just something to do. My mom's a physiotherapist.
Oh, nice. I
Yeah.
have an alarming amount of experience with those people. So
Oh yeah.
they do very important work.
They do.
One
They
of
do.
my side jobs is I'm a professional wrestler, so I do shows
Oh
around the
wow.
Maritimes and stuff. So every once in a while, I'll stupidly hurt myself in wrestling ring somehow, and then have to go crawling to my massage therapist and various physiotherapists to try to put me back
Hmm.
together. So far, they've done a great job. I feel pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. Physio is great, especially like for art. Like, unfortunately, there's a lot of seat work involved, and she's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, you need to do your stretches every day," which, yes, correct.
And nobody does. Like,
Yeah,
I'm very guilty of it too. Is my massage is constantly like, your pecs are too tight or your calves are too tight. Like you need to stretch,
yeah.
and I'm like, fine. It's funny because I finally started to do it, like go to the gym and actually stretch, and I've
Hmm.
actually finally nagging injuries are starting to go away. It's because
Yeah,
I'm stretching.
yeah. It's amazing how little tweaks of pain just from stretching
Mm,
that's makes a huge difference.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, something I recommend every artist should do, especially as aging
that's true.
becomes a thing. Yeah.
Hunched over a table while you're working on various stuff is a good way to get nagging injury, especially wrist stuff. I find, but
Oh, yeah, definitely wrist injuries, elbow injuries from just repetitive movements from drawing and
mm.
whatever. It's, yeah,
I
yeah.
found since I've gotten into like an art tablet and
Mhm.
trying things that way, which I'm actually really enjoying. I never thought I would, but I'm quite
Mhm.
surprised how much I do enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because you can just curl up on the couch or in a chair and do it, which is a lot easier than
Mhm.
being kind of chained to a desk, like a drafting table in your office, which I have right here. But
Yeah.
cool. So was drawing always a thing for you growing up?
Yeah, it's always been a thing since I was a little kid.
Mhm.
And then I didn't take it seriously until I was 10 or 11. Just more like, oh, hey, I like cartooning, because I got into comics through newspaper comics
Oh,
and
really? Well, once.
yeah. Sorry.
Well, once.
The one for me was Calvin and Hobbes, which is funny
Ah,
because this past weekend was Toronto Comic Con, and one of my commissions was, can you draw Calvin and Hobbes but as zombies? So it was like mix up like there's my childhood, and then there's like myself as an artist now who draws mainly horror
yeah.
and sci-fi stuff, and I'm, did this commission. It was great. Um, yeah.
That's quite a great like through line to from and my cat tends to make appearances sometimes on the show.
Aw, kitty.
Slabowski.
Aw, cute.
Um, yeah, no, it's quite the through line that like to lead to horror comics and through Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I guess for most kids, that's probably where you're first exposed to that sort of stuff, right? Like,
Hmm.
I know, like I read comics growing up, and I can't recall where I would have got my first one, probably my brother or something. But the newspaper comics or something I read diligently every day. It was like the thing to do.
Yeah.
And then when you got the color ones on the weekend, that was the even better. That was the jackpot.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Saturday morning or Sunday morning strips with the full page
Hmm.
colors. Like those were I always look forward to those. But yeah. Yeah, so yeah, Calvin and Hobbes and Saturday morning cartoons. That
Hmm.
was because my mom was trying to get me to read anything. So she's like, "Oh, there's Garfield, there's Charlie Brown here." But no, it was Calvin and Hobbes. That was the thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you started taking it seriously, what did you start drawing? Like, were you interested in
Just
horror stuff that young, or was that something that came later?
no, we weren't allowed to um watch horror or anything,
Hmm.
unless if it was something ancient like 1930s King Kong or something my dad grew up with. Um, because like I don't know, but like Halloween was banned too. Like, but then as I got older, and by the time I was 18, like I had really gotten head first into horror and just took off from there. And I'm like, it's really not that bad. Why is this banned? You know?
Were your
But
folks like religious? Is that why they were against it so much?
yeah, well, it was like the tail end of the Satanic Panic era, so we got like the leftovers of it. Yeah, but now with like the internet and everything, and like, my parents being more lax with it and being like, okay, well, the people who started the whole Satanic Panic thing, they were con artists, so
Mhm.
go ahead, you know.
Yeah, that's actually like an interesting deep dive. If anybody wants to like get
Mhm.
into that about those people that like that one guy that claimed that there was like this, the thing he was doing that happened to this girl that he rescued her from, and all of it was completely
Mhm.
fabricated. They were on Oprah and everything, and like these
Yeah.
wildly insane stories that were never true about like
Hmm.
killing babies and making like all this sort of crazy stuff. Like
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
insane about like I guess pre-internet that if you put a camera in a crazy person's face, how far they could go.
Hmm.
I mean, I
Hmm.
guess they still can do that. Some even worse with the internet. Some can become president, but that's just
Yeah.
it's just the way it goes.
It's like the best and worst of it.
Yeah,
But yeah, every decade has its own crazy, I guess. It just evolves into something else.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
did you find like your fascination with it was probably rooted like horror stuff rooted in like the fact that it was a taboo thing in your household, or
I
was it?
think so. I
Yeah.
think so. It's like if something's banned, you're gonna get curious about it. So and then you just explore it and see like what's wrong with it. And then you're like, there's nothing wrong with it at all. It just explores human behavior, really, when
Hmm.
you look into it. And a lot of it's metaphorical too.
Hmm. Well, like any
Or
fiction,
yeah,
really.
yeah, or it's just fun.
Yeah.
Either
Well,
of
that
those two
too.
things. Yeah.
I'm a huge like you're talking my language. Like obviously I'm a big fan of comics and I'm a big fan of horror stuff too, like massively. So as you can
Yeah.
tell by the gremlins and other things, there's other stuff behind my computer you can't see, but
Oh yeah.
a lot of ridiculous stuff, aliens and other stuff, more gremlins, creature from the Black Lagoon stuff.
Yeah.
But no, that's super cool. So did you get to
Mhm.
like as a kid, were you like sneaking in to try to see the things you could see, like
No,
movies at friends' house or nothing?
no, like it started with movies at friend's house and then like, I've always despite the restrictions, I was always encouraged to be myself and I could dress how I wanted to. So I had that freedom,
Hmm.
thankfully,
Yeah.
because those were freedoms, like, say, you know, so my parents weren't allowed to have to a certain extent, and they didn't want, you know, to have those kind of restrictions, because um, I guess based on whatever they saw, what they grow up, it didn't prevent anything. It was just silly
Mm.
rules, just
Yeah.
people afraid of change, basically. Because like in their time frame, it was the 60s and there was a lot of change going on socially and
Mm.
culturally. So a lot of pushback would been, the fear of this new counterculture, with the hippie movement and whatnot.
Yeah, which I always find really funny because, like, what would the fear have been? It's like a bunch of people that are
Mhm.
like, we should all just love each other and stop fighting, and then everyone's like,
Yeah.
I disagree. Like, what's your counter argument? Like, no, you're wrong. We should keep fighting and hate each other for
Yeah.
arbitrary reasons.
Yeah. People are just, there's people who are afraid of the unknown and they like to have their same comfortable lives, and any change threatens that, whatever utopia they've created in their minds, right? So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
feel it is kind of an age thing. I don't know. Like I find it in
Hmm.
myself. Just I'm not against any kind of social change or any kind of like
Hmm.
I'm a very liberal left. I'm as far left as you could probably lean.
Hmm. Hmm.
But the idea that just getting set in your ways when you get older, I feel like that you got to watch
Yeah.
yourself because it happens real
Hmm.
fast.
Yeah, yeah. There's some ways like you're set in your ways, like you have certain preferences that are
Hmm.
personal preferences. Like, I don't know. um I can't think of an example right now. Like things that are minor, it's like, okay, that's old people, old men yelling at cloud, minor stuff you expect, but like
Yeah.
anything like social or political, it's like, and you're that rigid,
Oh
you don't
yeah.
see like why the thing is happening or understand,
Yeah.
the context of, or like the history of something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very like to me it's always just minor small stuff like where I put my
Mhm.
plate or where I do this. Like it's just all,
Yeah.
but I've always been kind of a neat freak, so a little bit of
Yeah.
that, which I have to relax on because I don't drive my wife nuts. But like the idea of that sort of stuff. Um but yeah, like on a social level, it's always interesting to me because in most of the like I watch a lot of those shows like The Daily Show or those sort of things that are sort of like, is the only that make news funny, even the
Hmm.
sad news or the horrific news, because
Hmm.
I find it's easier to take. It's like the spoonful of sugar to
Yeah.
help the medicine go down.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, but then like when you watch some of these people and hear like when they do these little interviews, they talk to people in other states in the states specifically, I guess, that have differing ideas or Trump supporters or whatever,
Hmm.
and you're just sort of like the it's such arbitrary dumb reasoning and like all of this
Hmm.
blowback for like trans stuff, and it's like it's so dumb.
It
Like
is.
literally I always say the most problems in the world are from people that have a lot of opinions about things that have nothing to do with them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's like people are afraid of what they don't understand,
Yeah,
basically,
100%.
as totally.
I love when like you watch these right-wing pundits and they're always like you know, well, I don't, a man can go into the women's bathroom. What it's like, do you think that they couldn't if they wanted to? And what do you think stopping them? Is it magical? Like
Mhm.
if your gender stops you from going through a certain door, like if some
Mhm.
some jerk or some monster wants to go to the women's bathroom, they don't need to pretend to be something they're not to do that. You could walk through a door. Like it's
See, like I remember when I was a kid and we were doing a road trip, like my
yeah.
mom, siblings, and I were on a road trip to the East Coast just because during one summer vacation. And like every Tim Hortons we would go into, like there was always a long line up to the bathroom, and then women would start just going into the men's room because there was no
Yeah,
lineup, and no one made a stink about that
I
back
don't
then.
blame
So
them.
it's, just how it's
It's just a
what it
thing on
is
the
now.
door. Like it's not even like for those ones specifically, they're usually like one room. So it's just like, not stalls or anything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so ridiculous.
Yeah.
So when you finally got to comic books, like what were you grabbing then?
So from cartoons, I
Yeah.
went through manga. I was really getting into anime. Like
Nice.
I got into Gundam Wing, and I started collecting that, and then I got into Full Metal Alchemist. Like the anime thing, it goes through cycles. It's like I'm really into it, then I'm not into it because the fandom can be a bit crazy, and then I come back into it again because there's a series that I like, so it just cycles in and out. And then I was getting into indie comics around then. So in Kitchener, there used to be a comic shop called Now and Then Books. I may have gotten the name of that mixed up, but it's
No,
the
no, no.
same words in
Yeah.
there. But
Sure.
the owner of that shop died. And now there's just Carry On Comics in Waterloo and Looking for Heroes in Kitchener.
Mhm.
And now there's a new one in Cambridge, Heroes Tell. But anyway, the one I
Oh
went
wow.
to
That's what I love about
before,
Toronto, that area.
yeah,
There's so many comic stores. Like
yeah,
so many. Like it's overwhelming. Like in Nova Scotia we have like in Halifax there's like two. Well no,
really,
there's actually probably three or four now that I think about it. So but
yeah.
when you go to Toronto it's just like it's crazy because I obviously as a comic person and a book person and like I collect
Mm.
Blu-rays too, like movies. So like to go
Yeah.
into a like there's a store in Toronto, what was it called? Bay Street Video or something? And
Okay.
I remember just like being overwhelmed with how like it's so cool to be able to go into these places and see things that are so huge.
Hmm.
Like the
Hmm.
Beguiling in Toronto is such a cool store. That's probably
It
my favorite.
is.
Yeah. So
It
I don't even
is.
sorry, keep going.
No, it's okay. So the shop I went to when I was younger, my friends and I would go in there and we pick up a bunch of weird comics in there. So at the time it'd be like I had a friend who was really into Lenore the Cute Little Dead
Mhm.
Girl or Johnny the Homicidal Maniac
Yeah.
and weird stuff like that. And I got into Mouse and Bone.
Mhm. Oh, Bone was my
So,
favorite.
yeah, Bone is actually still one of my
Mine too.
top 10 favorites, which again, it weirds people out. The Calvin and Hobbes and Bone favorites. It's like, yeah, you know.
There's so like there's some good like really heartfelt human stuff in those. And even as an adult to
Mhm.
read them, they're still very touching and it hits you on this other level.
Yeah,
I
and
was
there's
hope
dark. Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No. I was saying I was hoping to get Jeff Smith on the show someday, but I've reached out to them, but they said maybe, and I haven't heard back. So I'm hoping maybe someday that'll happen.
Yeah, hopefully someday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd
for
be
sure.
awesome.
Yeah, and like with those with Bone, there's some dark moments
Hmm.
too. You
Hmm.
know, I just like to think of it as like a light Lord of the Rings kind of story, but it's cartoony,
It's funny
you
what
know.
sticks out in your head because I still remember like all the stuff with the rat creatures and King Doc and all that stuff. Like that, the way they're
Hmm.
drawn and stuff. There's some really scary moments in that. Same with Rockjaw and those characters too.
Yeah.
But the one that always stuck out with me as being like even as a kid reading it, which well, I thought was one of the darkest moments. I guess spoiler if you haven't read it, but the Rose miniseries
Okay.
that left her with the choice to either kill one of her dog friends or spare her sister, and she kills the dog. And I was like, I remember as a
Oh.
kid seeing that, going like, oh my god, like I'm like a huge animal person, and like it was
Oh.
such a yeah, I know, it's like she, it was a horrible choice for her, and the story really makes sense the way it goes, but still as a kid
Hmm.
reading that it just sort of opened my mind to like how traumatized not traumatizing 'cause I wasn't like, but it still sticks in my head as like such a serious dark adult thing to sort of be
Hmm.
confronted with. So there's a lot of cool
Hmm.
stuff in those books.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah, and then like as for manga, like I've collected the Akira graphic
Mhm.
novels and a huge collector of like Junji Ito books. So that's
I've been getting
really
into those a lot lately, actually. I've read quite a few of them. Uh,
yeah,
they're so
yeah,
dreamlike and strange. A
they
friend of mine
are.
kind of lent me a few, and then I sort of, and I read some years ago, but I kind of got a little more into it.
Hmm.
I haven't watched the show on Netflix. I've been meaning to.
Hmm.
That sort of adapts them, but the giant head balloon one is one that just lives in my head 24. I don't know why, but I every once in a while that'll just come into my purview and I'll think about it. And that's like it's a beautiful work of fiction in that way because like it's such a weird, strange, almost kind of dumb idea, but it's done
Hmm.
so creepily and so well that like
Hmm.
it just sticks with you. And his stuff really
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, that's what I like about Ito's work. It's like the ideas are so absurdly simple. They
Mhm.
should be stupid on paper, but they're not. He makes them like terrifying. You know, make a whole book about spirals and a town being cursed by spirals, and it,
Yeah.
it works, you
Yeah.
know.
It's a cool idea. And it's sort of like
Yeah.
if you think about like outsider horror or just stuff that's like different than like a Chucky movie or something.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's some ideas like almost Lovecraftian ideas in that are like very out there and very unique, which is as a horror fan, you don't run into a lot of unique. Every once in a while you do, you're
Hmm.
very happy. So that's why his
Hmm.
work's so cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I haven't like I've done like Death Note and a few of those others. I've never been a massive manga person, but I do have all of
Hmm.
the samurai Lone Wolf and Cub books,
Hmm.
and a friend of mine just gave me as a gift. It's a new Innocent, is that what it's called? It's the one with like the one that's about like the French Revolution.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about like the guy that was like the guy in charge of the guillotine during the French Revolution. Like he was like the beheader or whatever.
Oh,
It's supposed to be quite good.
oh,
It's I guess it
wow.
was just got the an American or a English language version put out, but it is.
Hmm.
It's sitting on my in my library to read, but I can't remember the name of it. But
Okay.
yeah, it's
I'll
on
have
the
to
list.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, once I find it, I'll drop you a line, or after we're done talking, I'll send you the
Yeah,
message.
yeah, for sure.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So manga must have been an interesting way to get slightly into it because it has like jarringly well, like manga. I always find manga funny because it'll be like jarringly cutesy and ridiculous depending on what you pick
Hmm.
up, or like ridiculously sexual or violent depending on which one you pick up. A friend of
Yeah,
mine was
yeah.
super into them, and I remember like he had the battle royal ones, and I remember
Mhm.
picking opening one page and just being confronted with basically hardcore pornography as a kid, and I was like, oh my god,
Yeah. 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 That's
it's all part of it. You just got to know what ones to buy, I guess.
exactly, exactly. You got to know which ones, you know. Um, and yeah, and then you go to the Indigo bookstore and you see like all the normie manga, marketable
Mhm.
manga
Yeah,
that's there for North American audiences. And you see the Berserks up on the top shelf, still the only books in the plastic wrap, you know, 'cause,
yeah.
you know, just yeah, you don't want to traumatize the shoppers.
Well, that's got to be a tough for the bookstore people to do that. 'Cause I'm sure kids get into manga because it is comics, but it
Mhm.
is fun, and depending what book you're into, it's cutesy in its own way and does its own thing. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty easy to cross over into the other world if you're not paying attention.
for sure,
So
for sure.
But
Yeah.
all right, cool. So did you ever like? I love that you guys are into like all of the, or your friend at least. I'm assuming by parts you as well, but the like the Vasquez stuff, the
Mhm.
Lenore and Johnny. Were you an Invader Zim fan as well?
Yes, I love the TV show.
Yeah.
Just and then I just love cartoons in general, like
Hmm.
besides anime, yeah, just anything weird and bizarre at the time. Um, just back then I was just consuming whatever I could find too. And oh yeah, Helsing was a big one
Oh yeah.
with the anime Helsing, the first series, not the second series. That one, it was dark, but then it got weirdly cutesy in parts, and I don't know how I feel about that. I'll probably go through that series again, but the first one, it wasn't perfect, but I have a bit of affection for it.
Yeah. Well, like anything that brought you to the table when it came to your kind of, unique fictional interests.
Yeah.
Uh, oh, that's very cool. So when did you start getting into doing them yourself?
Um, Around high school, I was like, oh, I'm gonna make my own comics. And I was one of those people that was like, I would talk about it, but I hadn't really done anything. And finally, when web comics were becoming more of a thing, I started doing my own comics then around 2008, just to see if I could, make comics and if I could make a full story. So I started the with my first story, which was the awkward child of the bunch, because like I didn't know what I was doing. My like I was used to mimicking other people's style, but I hadn't really developed my own style. And I was following a lot of bad art advice back then. So the artwork, not the greatest, but it was a good starting point to
Hmm.
learn what I was doing. And I started going to Comic Cons around then, specifically the Fan Expo shows, because those were the closest one to me and the ones I could afford at the time. And eventually, based on advice I read in a library book, which probably wouldn't work now because the book was dated 2004 at the time. But like
Ancient. Yeah,
ancient, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I was asking around if anyone was looking for an assistant, and I was like, I know how to use Photoshop. So that was my selling point. And I got into doing color flats for some artists in the GTA area and some
Oh,
of the artists at Raid Studio when they were on College Street at the time.
oh,
So
cool.
I'd be doing that and then working on my own stuff in my spare time. And then eventually, after I got my first comic done and learned from mistakes from that, I started Gehenna Death Valley in 2014. And yeah, 2014. And yeah, it's all these years later, I've had two reprints of it. Currently the deluxe edition, and it, to my surprise, it won a Joe Shuster Award. Oh, here comes my dog.
Oh, it's all right.
Yeah.
We're animal friendly here. I see the tail.
Yeah. Yep.
Aw.
Hey, come here. Come here. Come here. Okay, you can get her head in there.
He's
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. What's the
There we
name?
go. Raven.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, she's a Labradoodle. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can only
oh,
see the tail.
yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, now the door's closed.
No, no problem at all.
Sorry about that.
Hey, it's all good.
Yeah, she might come back in again. So
That's all right.
yeah, yeah, pets. Yeah.
That's dog parenting.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Or animal parenting. I don't have any actual children, so my cats, there's three of them are actually
Oh,
what are my kids. So
I'm telling it, my future, I'm just gonna be some old lady somewhere living in the woods. At least there's a grocery store nearby and everything. It's gonna be animals everywhere and dogs.
that sounds
You know,
delightful.
yeah.
If there's a
Yep.
neighborhood, let us know. We might join you.
Mm.
Yeah. So what was the story of the Gehenna Death Valley? Like what's the tale of that?
And basically, I tell people it's like Scooby-Doo goes to hell, except there's no dog and no Mystery Machine, and the monsters are 100% real. So it's the classic premise of five friends are on a road trip. They make a pit stop, and they come across a restricted area, and one of them's like, "Hey, let's crawl under the fence. Let's see what's on the other side." And things go from bad to worse, and that just scratches the surface of everything that goes on in this story. So it was 6 issues long, and then I made everything into a trade collection with
Hmm.
extra pages to wrap up the story. And yeah, it was well received, better than I expected. And it was the main inspiration for it was my arachnophobia. So I
Which is
Drew
on full
was
display in the cover. It's like a giant,
yeah,
man spider combination, which is very cool. The design's
yeah,
beautiful.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah. So like um now it's drawing inspiration from the giant bug movies from the 50s and 60s, and then
nice.
body horror from the 80s, and just doing my own thing with those two things. And also like still being influenced by Junji Ito, except not drawing like him. I try
Mm.
to keep things more simplistic in my character design. But I allow myself to evolve over time. But yeah,
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 that's gorgeous. What
yeah.
what were your favorite large bug movies from the from from the era?
Um, I don't know if I call this one my favorite, but it's one that's always stuck with me, which is Tarantula.
Oh, yeah, yeah, classic.
Yeah, it's like there's so many things wrong with it. You go back. But but it still ugh, just no, just spiders. I cannot. I I was a little kid and I was like, I can watch this movie, and every time it would come on, I would just hide in terror because as soon as that tarantula, like, as soon as there's somebody who come on and their face is all like horribly distorted and
Oh yeah.
lumpy, that was the first thing. And then the tarantula would come on screen, and that would be it. That
That
would
was
be
the
it.
one. That was the one when they had the like the old oh no, is that the old one like the or the 95 one? Right. Okay, sorry. I was getting confused with the different one.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, there's like a super old one that had like I can't remember what it was called, but there was like a giant tarantula. It's like old movie,
Mhm.
like black and white.
It was that one.
Oh, that was
That
that
was
one.
the
Oh, that was the one.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a copy of it here even. But
Because
the
that
yeah.
tarantula was like one of the most talented, I guess, the one they used for that movie was one of the most talented spiders, I guess, in Hollywood because it was used in
Mhm.
a ton of movies because
Yeah.
it was trained very well. Like The Incredible
Yeah.
Shrinking Man, I think it's in that as well. And it's in a bunch of
Mhm.
other ones too. But that's cool. That's a fun movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that movie, and then a monster movie that I like. There's two of them. So one of them is Them, the giant ant
hmm
movie, also very old, and also The Fly, but the David Cronenberg remake. That
hmm
one I enjoy a lot.
Oh, I'm a
So,
huge Cronenberg fan. So
yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah. I mean, you can't. I feel like, I mean, most Canadian, if you're a Canadian horror fan, you definitely have to be a huge fan of him
Yes.
because it's imperative, I feel like. But his movies are so unique and interesting.
Hmm.
I haven't seen Crimes of the Future yet. I'm excited to. I've kind of been, it's almost like waiting for the right time.
Yes, yes. I had it, I've been sitting on it for a while for the same reason, just like,
Yeah.
when is it the right time to,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the worst if you're a movie fan because I do that constantly where I'm just like, I have thousands of Blu-rays and stuff, and I've probably watched like a quarter of them. And every time I want to
Mhm.
watch it, it's like it's almost like you spend an hour just trying to figure out what to watch.
Yeah, and then I have the same problem, and I end up going back to the same movie I'm watching over and over again.
Yeah.
Currently, it's Mandy.
Oh, I love that movie.
I
Love it.
love it, love it, and I just yeah, just I don't know what it is about it, but I'm just going back to it over and over again.
I
It's
haven't
just
watched Beyond the Black Rainbow, his first one. Maybe I should watch that one.
you watch it,
Yeah,
watch it. It's
awesome.
good.
Well, I loved
Yeah.
his episode of the Guillermo del Toro show. Did you see that?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's super
And
cool.
that one from that series, I have that on repeat.
It's
Also.
such a good. His style is so unique and cool.
And this,
Um,
yeah, and the
yeah,
soundtrack is always killer.
yeah. Actually, a movie I suggest. It's very you probably already know about it, but did you ever see The Fireplace that won the secret horror movie that was supposed to be a Yule log at Halloween that they put out or Christmas?
I have not seen that
So
actually.
in Mandy they have the Cheddar Goblin cart commercial on the TV.
Yeah,
So the guy that did that is the guy that did the Too Many Cooks viral video for a while ago.
I saw that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
he so I think it was Adult Swim put out an ad for a Yule log, I think for
Hmm.
Christmas.
Hmm.
So, but it was a secret movie. So when you watched it, it's literally just a Yule log burning for a while, and then it eventually for about 10 minutes, and then you hear like someone cleaning the room, someone get murdered, and then it kind of zooms out with like the people, the guy that records these logs, what his job is, and then
Yeah.
they're in like a little cabin somewhere, and then the horror it takes off from there. But it's a bunch of it's like aliens, there's like ghosts, there's demons. It's a very strange, like if you know his work, very strange movie, but very interesting. and it really has something to say, mostly about
Mm,
generational trauma, but it's super good.
mm. I'll have to look that up for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, check it out. I think it's just called The Fireplace. I think it's the name. But if you just look up
Mm,
Adult Swim Yule Log, you'll find it. It's like the first I think it might have been called that too, so I don't know. But
okay.
it's a super unique movie, which is kind of tied to Mandy in a weird way. So
Nice.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Mm,
Well, the Cronenberg stuff too is always like, you know,
mm.
if you ever felt unhappy in your own body, those are like the movies for you.
Yeah, yeah. Besides Ito's work, I use Cronenberg a lot for inspiration, including for my current comic series, Wormhole Club, but
Mhm.
this time with like psychics and that, which is a weird thing to tackle because there's not a whole lot lately in horror, a lot of psychic or espers going on in that genre.
Scanners, obviously.
Yeah, scanners.
Or The Fury. I never watched that, but it's been on my list for a while because I'm a big De Palma fan, but that's one that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen that one. Yeah.
I've heard it's very good, but I
Mhm,
love De Palma stuff in general. I mean, I
mhm,
guess The Shining to a lesser extent, but they're out there, I
mhm.
suppose.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
Doctor Sleep. That's a fantastic movie.
I love that movie.
Me too.
Loved it. Yeah,
I think people have, pun intended, slept on it about
they
because
did.
I like Mike Flanagan a lot. I think
Mhm,
Midnight Mass is one of the best miniseries ever. But
mhm.
that one is insanely good. And as far as for a sequel to The Shining too, it's fantastic in that way as well.
It
But
is. It is.
yeah,
It's really good.
I know he has such a way of like injecting like real human stuff uh into his work. Like the new Edgar Allan Poe one too, that Netflix just did was pretty solid too.
Hmm, hmm.
Um,
Fall of
but
the House of Usher.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now he's going to Prime, I think. And he's supposed to be
Oh,
doing a TV series. Well, he has the new Stephen King movie coming out based on a short story.
okay.
But then I think he's doing an adaptation of The Dark Tower. He's going to be doing like the whole thing,
Hmm.
which would be cool.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
nice.
Hopefully, you. I was talking with someone in the previous episode of the show, um,
Mm,
Stephen Grant, who worked for Marvel, and he's had like a few of his things become movies. And
mm.
he's just saying when it comes to Hollywood stuff, don't hold your breath. This is his best advice. So it'd be cool to see it all come to fruition and we get the full story. But until I see it
Yeah.
completely done, I'm not going to get too excited.
I feel like if anything of mine becomes a film or something, I don't know, feel like Clive Barker, where he had control over his work, so it wouldn't
Yeah, but
suck, you know?
He got burned so much before he went that route.
Yes. Yes.
Like Nightbreed and some of those other things that became wildly strange and weird
Hmm,
stories
hmm.
and 90 different cuts of them because, everyone had their own opinion on how it should work out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
still fun in its own route.
Hmm, hmm. I've got
Oh,
Nightbreed queued up somewhere. I think on Shutter.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I live on Shutter.
Yeah.
That's the where I have like the Criterion channel and Shutter, and that's pretty much the only two things that I go to movies mostly. I mean Netflix
Mm-hmm.
I do as well,
Mm-hmm.
um but there's some pretty cool stuff out there.
Yeah.
And body horror. Actually, I just watched Castle Freak for the first
Castle.
time.
Okay.
It's one of Stuart Gordon's like horror movies he did with like Full Moon Pictures, the guys that did all the Puppet Master movies and stuff.
Mm. Oh, okay.
It's Jeffrey Combs. It's kind of Lovecraftian.
Oh.
Uh,
Hmm.
or is it Combs? I never pronounced his name right. But yeah, it's a cool. It's like for a super low budget horror movie set in an Italian castle. It's actually incredibly well done.
Hmm.
Yeah, fun stuff like that. So,
Yeah, I enjoyed Reanimator, so
oh
that
yeah,
sounds awesome. Yeah.
yeah. And if you enjoyed that, watch From Beyond if you haven't seen it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's by Stuart Gordon. It's got Barbara
Hmm.
Crampton and Jeffrey Combs in it.
Okay.
Totally different story, but it's another Lovecraft adaptation.
Okay. I'll check it
So
out for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. So after like, what was the the Schuster Awards like? Like getting that nomination?
The nomination, first I was shocked because like I remember like I sent Gehenna out when it was issues and it didn't get nominated, which I'm like, okay, cool, that's fine. Um, I think it was like issue 3 or 4 or something, like something out of order. That was the first I think it was Keith Cratchow who told me about, oh, this is how you submit them. And I'm like, oh, okay. Thank you. So I tried that out. And then when I had the whole collection, then I submitted the entire collection. And when it got nominated, I didn't think it would get nominated, but it did. And I was like, what? whoa, that's cool. And I'm just like, okay, well, that's good enough. It's not going to win anything. And there was like a lot of great nominees in that
Mm.
list. And then when it won, I was like, what? It won the Jean Day Award for Independent Publishing. I hope I got all that right. That's
Yep,
a
that's
bit
right.
of a yeah. The whole name of it. But yeah, so at the time I only had 19 copies left of the first edition. And so I decided to run a Kickstarter to fund the deluxe edition. And it was successfully funded and got overfunded. It was like a low end goal, which is all I wanted, but it was a good starting point to get the momentum going and to make nicer covers and also to use the Kickstarter platform to like cross promote a lot of my friends who helped me with the campaign. So that was cool.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of the way it goes now. Like almost every comic person has something out through Kickstarter.
Yeah. And then it was cool too, like the generosity, like from people like Chip Zdarsky. He did a variant cover, which I was like, oh, thank you so much, because he's so insanely busy now. But
Hmm.
after doing some flats for him and yeah, so that was cool. But yeah, it was cool to have like some friends like Paula Manko, who did two variant covers for that, and have a bunch of friends do guest artwork like Casey Parsons, Shane Heron, Jonathan Kachuba, Arnold Trinidad. I hope I got everybody. Anyone who I forgot, I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, it was a good community focused campaign, which going forward, I think I would keep doing that. Just um, because it is kind of like a family down here
Hmm.
in the comics community.
Hmm.
We want to be supportive of each other.
Yeah, I get that because I've spoken to quite a few people from the Toronto comic scene,
Hmm.
including like Adam Gorham and who I've had and Callum. I'm gonna butcher his last name because I don't remember it. Calman
Andrzejowski.
Androsovsky. That's it.
Yeah.
I had it right for a while when I was talking to him.
Hmm.
But like Dave Cutler is he was my roommate for a while, way back when he was going to university.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is kind of funny.
Hmm.
And I've had Perez on and some other folks too. So Ramon.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's and I get that vibe from them. They seem to
Yeah.
really like hold each other. Like everyone seems to really hold each other up and support each
Yeah.
other's work.
Yeah. And it's not like a toxic competitiveness, it would just be stupid. Like, why? But, it's just everybody supports each other and looks out for each other. So that's cool.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
I'm guilty of it because I haven't had a chance to do it. But like, there are some comic people that are out here in the East Coast. Like Ed
Hmm.
Brisson lives here, and
Hmm.
Jed McKay's in the area. I think he's in PEI, but
Hmm.
you know, uh, I always blank on this guy's name. The
There's
guy that
sorry?
Sandy Crothers, yeah,
Yeah, Sandy.
I've had on the show, but the guy that did Civil War, the artist.
Oh, him.
Yeah, it'll come to me in a minute, but I like his work a
Yeah.
lot. I feel like it's on my wall. Steve McNiven. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have a signed copy of this Captain America issue #1 there.
Mhm.
Um, so they I'm on the list for like these drinking draws they always coordinate, but it just never happens on a weekend or a time that I can make it. So,
Yeah.
but I really want to because I'd like to get more into that community. Like I used to do a lot of indie comics when I was younger, and I kind of just fell out of it because of life. But now
Yeah.
I really want to get back. Like I really miss it. So I just gotta
Hmm.
figure out some way to inject myself. Probably just write something and do a comic. I guess that's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah. Or maybe some live streams too that help. I found that's helped me,
Oh,
especially
really?
when I live outside of Toronto. So
Mhm.
like a friend of mine, Shane Huron introduced me to Martin Slam Duncan, and he runs
Oh, yeah.
these Sketchlemania live streams about once a month. So they're
Mhm.
charity live streams that he streams on YouTube and Facebook, and
Cool.
just gets up, picks a theme, and gets a bunch of artists together to draw something for a couple hours, and we just hang out and have a great time. And then the finished pieces get auctioned off to a charity. Like it's not always the same one, it's different ones.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then like those have been really cool and a great way to like hang out with everybody, usually on Tuesday nights. But like,
Oh, cool. That sounds
yeah,
really nice.
yeah, yeah, they're really cool.
So what is your process like for your art? So I'm just like going through some of the going through a bit of your work there and prep for talking to you and
Mhm.
coming across it. So what do you generally use as your tools when coming up with some of your work?
For tools, well, so for Gehenna, it was mostly traditional work,
Hmm.
except like the colors are digital on Photoshop.
Yeah,
For Wormhole Club, it's been digitally drawn on Procreate. So
that's what I used to use.
yeah, I didn't
It's
like
great.
it is
It's so good. It's
fantastic.
so good. I was
It,
really pushed back against it until I saw
mm,
Adam Gorham at like I talked to him on the show, but then he
mhm,
came down to the East Coast Comic Expo in Moncton, and I was there because I do art prints that I sell at shows.
yeah.
So I was there doing that, and I went over to say hi to him because I talked to him here, and then
Mhm.
I was watching him draw. I think it was like colored the cover for one of those Stranger Things turtle crossovers he did, and I was just watching
Yeah.
him color it, and I was like, oh my God, look how easy that is! Like
Yeah,
and
yeah.
fast. The steps, like it just removes
Mhm.
so many time consuming steps from doing work.
Yeah, so that's mainly why I love using Procreate now. And yeah, I still draw traditionally. Like I've got cover artwork in that. But like, it's just so much faster. I don't have to worry about using the scanner, just
Mm,
another extra step
yeah.
and then stitching it on Photoshop and all that. But it's just I can do all the drawing and coloring on one. I'm still using like two or three different programs to edit the image before it goes to print.
Hmm.
Just like I use Procreate, I use Clip Studio for like the tones work.
Hmm.
The I there's the actual name of it escapes me, but the little dots,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
dots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like I still use Photoshop on my old computer just to make sure the inks look clean and
Hmm.
they're absolutely 100% black before they go to print. All the techie stuff
Yeah. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
colors and all that. So, but yeah, I just completed a variant cover for Rebel Girls for just yesterday and all done in Procreate, super easy and convenient. And I can easy to travel with too. And I'm not just carrying paper with me and worrying it's going to get crushed when I'm in my backpack or in my some other bag because it's placed awkwardly or something,
Yeah.
you know.
I've talked before in the show about this, about that sort of romanticized old style of like,
Mhm.
like the Kirby's where you all go into like an office and you got the little things on your to keep your sleeves up, the little visor just drawing at a desk all day.
Yeah.
Which does sound like it would have been fun to be part of that environment, although I don't think those guys never seem to approach it like a fun, nerdy thing we're doing. It's like it's just a job,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I feel like the community has really got more open in that regard. But
Hmm.
but I mean, obviously the worth ethic needs to be there as well.
For sure. For sure. And like for ideas, it's like they'll just pop up whenever. So it's either I draw it out first or it comes out in writing, but it always changes, just I keep it fluid. I don't like to keep restrictions, but it's just as long as I have a schedule and keep it going. And I'm like, I want this done before this show and etc. Um, so yeah, I just keep it like that and also work around like my commissions and
Mm.
all the other stuff too.
Is
And
your
yeah,
commission work mostly through like your website?
it's through thanks to Schedule Mania, I've gotten some commission work and also from shows like Van Expo.
Hmm.
Um, I get clients through there too. So it's been fun. And I hope to get more like cover work and commission work going forward. And a couple of opportunities for sequentials have popped up, which I'm excited about. So I'm just writing a script for 8 to 10 page short right now, which is nice. And yeah, so there's a lot going on behind the scenes, but it's like stuff I can't really talk about right
Oh, that's
now.
fair.
Other than the Rebel Girls one, that one, um, I think the cover is going to drop soon. So yeah, so Rebel Girls 4, but Danny Harrell, who was found by and encouraged by Mike Ruth,
Hmm.
pretty much.
I've had
So
him on the show too. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He's actually one of the first people I think I had on the show as far as guests go,
Hmm.
because ran into him at conventions out here. Like he's good friends with mutual friends like Troy and Brenda Little, are friends of mine.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, I'm going to see him this weekend. There's a little nerd convention in PEI they do every year. AEX, Atlantic Entertainment Expo, it's called.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm setting up there. So we're gonna go visit them, and I have some other friends in the area. So
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Freddie Beach, which I won't be able to make it this time, but I've heard a lot of good things about that one too,
yeah,
apparently.
the East
Yeah,
Coast Comic Expo in Moncton's a great one because it's one that
yeah.
like a lot of these, I find a lot of these conventions, like HowCon's a big one out here, but
Hmm.
they're mostly like those ones are mostly focused on like sci-fi stuff. Comics are sort of
Hmm.
there, but they're not a center point.
Yeah.
Um, so ones like the East Coast Comic Expo is really just comic stuff, like literally
Hmm.
just comic artists, writers, and that sort of thing. And if there sometimes there are incidental other folks, but never it's never overwhelming that way.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but that one is very focused. And Cal, the guy that owns Strange Adventures, often organizes a Dartmouth Comic Arts Festival. It's like a day at this at a spot, which is always really nice too. It's great for indie
Hmm.
comic people.
That's awesome.
Get out there and see what other people are doing. A lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, I hope to make it out there someday,
Yeah, for
for sure.
sure.
Not this year, but like going forward, see where it goes. I need to do more Canadian shows.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just exploring America right now since last year a little bit. So
Oh, really?
just
What's
doing
the
one.
what's the
Sorry.
American what's the American con scene like?
There's some similar. There's a lot of similarities and some differences, like based
Mhm.
on the culture of the city I'm in. So like Boston, for example, like I had a Godzilla and Cloverfield piece.
Nice.
Um, and I had it for years and it finally went away. Someone finally picked it up in Boston. But it's like they really like their kaiju. They really like, witches and, you know, and some, Lovecraft and steampunk and whatever. It's like different kinds of
Yeah.
things that are more popular. And there's things that are consistent, like anime, like every single one. You're going to see a Demon Slayer cosplayer or a bunch of them, or,
Oh yeah.
a lot of the anime. It's the same, like globally. It seems like whether it's like even in Kitchener, like yeah, there's things that are consistent. And then like New York was different, just a whole different vibe. It was kind of like Toronto, but different in its own way.
Hmm.
And that one was just interesting because for New York Comic Con, it's like, well, the shows I'm used to with Fan Expo, like all the pros are sitting like against the wall kind of thing. And
Hmm.
then there's the artist alley, but like New York Comic Con, you're in a room full of pros and you're like, you know, it's a bit mind blowing. And like, and then you're sitting across from like Rick Parker. I hope I got his name right. The artist for Beavis and Butthead. You know,
No.
it's like, what
That's
is this
awesome.
even happening? And he was
Yeah.
so nice too. He was the sweetest
Most
guy
of
from
them
that weekend.
are. They really are. Because I
Yeah,
think they're just
yeah,
happy because they are like some of them, regardless of the success, we all kind of came from being, nerdy kids that want to get into the thing we love. So I think there's a real joy and passion in that.
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. So it was great. And then like, yeah, each city I've gone to has been different in their own way and with different fandoms. And wow, not America, but like even going to Ottawa and noticing like, oh, they really like, fantasy and Lord of the Rings up here and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
it's just interesting to see,
One
you
of
know.
my first cons that I think I went to just a fan before I started doing art stuff was the Fan Expo in Montreal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I've gone since selling art there, which is fun too, and like to try to do that again. But it's just like you just wander around and you just like there's Ty Templeton, there's Sergio Aragonés, there's Stan Sakai, there's
Hmm.
like um uh so many like influential people on myself. Oh god, I'm blanking on his Tom Fowler, other people that like did a lot of
Hmm.
really cool art stuff at the time that I was really into. Neil Adams was there, like it
Oh
was just
wow.
yeah, and like I gave my comics to because I had a comic at the time that I gave to several folks, and
Hmm.
including Stan Lee because we got a photo with him, but I didn't expect to hear back from him.
Hmm.
But like I always say Sergio Aragonés is one of the coolest people because he was like, come back tomorrow.
Hmm.
And I did, and he had read the book over at a night and then gave me a bunch of notes and details and like went way of his way to like, support and help me just as a young guy, just trying to get my book out there. So
That's cool.
yeah, it's nice it's heartwarming to know that there are, people that have success in comics. I mean, Aragonés, has been doing Groove forever
Hmm.
and Mad Magazine, all that stuff. So it's just like really kind of a hero. So it's just really neat to meet them and know that they're cool people too.
Hmm. Hmm.
Especially you meet the occasional one that seems kind of arrogant, but it's not
Oh,
that
the
often.
occasional. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're few and far between, thankfully. But it's like
Yeah.
you remember them and it's like, yeah, it's like it's funny, being on the other side and you meet like some of the rude people, and then once you get over to the other side, and you're like, oh, I remember that person. They were a dick, you know. Bottom line, be nice to people. You never know
Yeah,
someday.
100%. Because
You know.
because you're going to meet the same people on the way down and the way up, right? So
Hmm.
hopefully
Hmm.
there isn't a way down, but if it happens, you want to have a nice rapport with those folks as well.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
awesome. So do
Hmm.
you have a dream project in the mix besides what you're working on currently?
Um, Dream project. I just like making my own stuff, but I hope to be part of an awesome book with some great collaborators. Actually, there's one of them I am part of. They'll be coming out. There should be a Kickstarter for it, hopefully this year.
Oh,
Just
cool.
put it that way. Yeah, so it's an anthology.
Nice.
Yeah, and then what else? There's some publishers that I would like to work with, but also I kind of like doing it DIY. It's just with the way the industry is right now, it's so hmm,
Oh, it's
like
rigid. It's very
it's
regimented. Yeah,
rigid.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what it is.
I
Yeah,
mean, doing your own thing is great, but like when you're working for a big company, it's deadlines are everything, and
yeah,
they never stop. It's always a deadline.
yeah,
So,
yeah. For this one book I want to pitch, I'm trying to get a bit of a buffer ahead of time before I pitch it to a couple of publishers I have in mind, just so like there's something done, and in case I get behind with, because it's happened before, like I'm working on something and then suddenly I get a commission or flats or something that's more
hmm
urgent, and then the other thing has to be pushed back, and then
hmm
the deadline for that project gets pushed back. So I'm just thinking like, okay, I've got to plan this better in case, you know. So it's just balancing everything. But yeah, I like to do some horror books and some, it'd be fun to do a murder mystery kind of thing or a true crime something. I was thinking like, that'd be cool to do Dick Tracy someday. But I mean, totally random.
Dick Tracy would be fun.
That would be fun. Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
interesting. I've heard an interesting note about this, and I'm not sure if you're familiar. Maybe somebody listening might be interested. So Warren Beatty, who played him in the movie, you've seen the movie, like from the '90s, the Dick
Um,
Tracy movie.
Parts of it, I haven't seen the whole thing,
It's it's
admittedly.
it's fun ish.
Yeah.
It's a product of its time for sure.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
there is so in order to keep the rights for certain products, you need or certain movie properties, you need to keep making a movie every so often in order to ensure that the rights stay with you and
Hmm.
don't revert back to someone else. That's usually part of the deal. So
Hmm.
because of that, Warren Beatty every like 4 or 5 years will do like a Q&A or a talk with Leonard Maltin on Turner Movie Classics, which is considered a recorded movie or short film or something that retains the rights. So and I think it was because there was some deal years ago. They're trying to work with Dick Tracy that rubbed him the wrong way. So he's gone out
Hmm.
of his way every year to keep doing this just to
Yeah.
stop these other people from being able to make a Dick Tracy movie.
Yeah.
He even just did it like last year. So like he's still going. He's like in his 80s and he's like, fuck you, you're not gonna get this. I'm gonna keep doing it.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a very human part of me that loves extreme pettiness. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. It's entertaining,
Yeah,
really. It's
yeah.
just human pettiness. It's yeah, it's endless entertainment, which is why it fascinates everybody.
Mm,
And you hope it just keeps going
yeah, I
because it
agree.
just keeps getting funnier.
All right. Well, since you're a horror fan, I need to ask you, what's your favorite horror movie?
Okay. So it's just
You've been
there's
asked
a
this before. You have a
bunch.
prepared answer, which most horror
There's
fans do. So,
Yeah, there's a bunch. Like I love Psycho, I love The Exorcist, I love like Mandy, of course.
uh
I was thinking about like Deep Red. Like I
oh
like
yeah,
the
I love Dario
yeah,
Argento. So
yeah,
huge
and I
fan. There's a
love
good doc
weird.
on,
Yeah.
on him that just came out not so long ago on Shutter, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I've got that bookmarked, so I'm really
Yeah,
excited to
it's
see
good. It's
that.
good. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Cool.
And weirdly enough, I really like The Exorcist 3.
That's supposed to
Like
be.
it's
I haven't watched it yet, but it's supposed to be incredibly good.
watch it.
Yeah. Okay.
Really
Maybe
watch it.
it'll
There
be
was a
tonight.
Yeah, yeah, there's a part that's like I knew it was coming, but when it happened, I was like, yeah.
I think I know the part you're talking about. It always comes up in like top jump
Mm.
scares of all time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's memed a lot in that, but it's just whenever it happens, it's like mm. And I don't know if I call this a favorite, but it's more like I need to watch this again because it's like not like anything I've seen. Hereditary,
Oh yeah,
of
I love that
course.
movie.
Um,
Huge fan
I
of Ari
keep
Aster.
yeah, yeah.
Midsommar
Like
is so good too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love
It's
Beau's Afraid. It's not really a horror movie, but it's a
Mhm.
weird ass movie, but it's awesome.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that
Yeah.
one. Yeah, but like, yeah, like there's the classics, but I try to keep, just keep an eye open for new horror too, so I'm
Mm.
not like stuck in this rigid,
Yeah.
but they're classics for a reason because they
Oh yeah.
were groundbreaking for their time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's like, and I'm currently going through a Scanners obsession as well.
Have you watched all of the
And
sequels?
no, I have not. I think there a lot of them are on Prime. If
Oh, are
I'm,
they? Cool. I
yeah.
Shout or Scream Factory put out because there's scanners and there's scanners
Mm,
2 and 3, which are unrelated to the first one.
yeah.
That are but then there's like a side sequel that I think Vinegar
Mhm.
Syndrome put out called Scanner Cop, which is like a
Oh.
cop that's a scanner, and there's two of those. So technically there's five sequels or
Mhm.
five scanner movies. That coincide with the original Cronenberg one. I mean, Cronenberg had
Yeah.
nothing to do with any of the others, but
Yeah.
they're out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Because like I watched The Brood recently
Oh,
and
no,
there's
that's a good
like,
movie.
here's like what we recommend to you. I'm like, there's more Scanner movies? What? Just seeing in the recommending
Yeah,
stuff.
I
But
don't think
like,
they're
yeah.
anything as good as the first one. Probably, I would
No.
assume not. But they're
No.
out there, and sometimes they're fun in that way.
Hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
Well,
like probably a whole list of movies that I can't think of right now. But I mean, like I watch a lot of movies, so but those are my top ones for sure.
yeah, respectable list.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always come back to like I'm like you. I always try to watch new stuff.
Hmm.
Like I just watched Suitable Flesh, that new one with that's on Shutter, and a
Oh
few
yeah.
other. It's not bad, but
Yeah.
there's the old there's a secret. There's like the 70s and 80s have such a great little pocket of horror films.
Hmm.
Like The Thing has always been. I would say my favorite is
The Thing.
yeah.
That's what I was thinking. The
The
Thing.
Thing has always been
Yes.
it'd be my Mount Rushmore anyway. But I always say
Hmm.
that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is my favorite one, the original.
That one too. The original.
Yeah, because
Always
it's
the
just
original.
so grimy. It makes you feel
Hmm.
gross watching it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
The Thing is up there, yeah. Like Hereditary, I really
Hmm.
loved. Get Out, I really loved.
Yeah.
Actually, I
Get
really
Out was
liked
really good.
Us. Us, I liked a lot too.
I loved that
Yeah,
one. Yeah. Yeah. That
but
was
like
so creepy.
I'm a big Carpenter fan, so like
Hmm.
Prince of Darkness, I think is fantastic. Mouth of Madness, I think is
Hmm.
one that a lot of people haven't seen but should because it's fantastic.
Yeah. There was one that I saw recently, Smile.
Oh yeah, I like
That
that. That was
one.
a good one of the modern
Yeah.
ones. The main
Yeah.
character in that, the woman, is Kevin Bacon's daughter.
Yeah, I read
Yeah,
that. I was
yeah, which
remember
is cool.
I was telling one of my friends, Sam Nor, that and he was like, Kevin Bacon's daughter, what? He was so excited. I'm like, yeah, watch it.
I think I read
Like,
recently it's got a sequel coming, so
yeah, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised because
yeah,
that movie was well done, and I would definitely see a sequel
yeah,
to that one. Um, what else is coming out in Shudder that I'm keeping my eye open? Oh, Late Night with the Devil. I hope I
yeah. It's
got
supposed to be
the
really good.
yeah, I saw the preview for that and I was like, I gotta see this.
I like
So
David Dash Malin,
yeah,
if I'm pronouncing his name right.
yeah,
He
yeah.
he was very briefly in that other Stephen King adaptation from last year, The Boogeyman.
Hmm.
Which actually is pretty solid. Like I wouldn't, it's worth watching. I wouldn't say it's going
Yeah.
to do anything super new to,
Mhm.
your experience of horror films, but
Yeah.
as far as it goes, it's quite a good one.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I forgot this. The It movies, like the new versions
Oh
of
yeah,
them.
yeah,
I do love those. I love the Bill Skarsgård, his
so good.
take on Pennywise. That's just me. Like, yeah, Tim Curry, it was great and everything, but like I got bored with those movies. I'm sorry if I
No, I
anyway, just
agree. I like
yeah.
those old movies too, but I always said that Tim Curry's Pennywise is like, it seems like a real clown. Like you could really
Mhm.
see that guy at a party somewhere and be like, there's a
Yeah.
clown. But
Yeah.
like Skarsgård's version is like something not of this world that's trying to look like a clown and not quite
Mhm.
getting it right, which is
Yeah.
even more disturbing because there's something
Yes.
just off enough about it that you're like it's like when someone wears a mask, it's like a human mask, but not quite. It's just
Mhm.
it's close enough to real, that uncanny
Yeah.
valley, but far enough that it makes you unsettling the whole time.
Yeah, that's what I loved about that version. And yeah, yeah, those movies I enjoyed a lot and I watch them repeatedly too when I get
Awesome,
the chance to. Yeah.
cool. Well, there's so much out there; it's hard to keep track of it all.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Cool. Anything coming up that you want to discuss or promote before I let you get back to your life?
So I since January I've released Wormhole Club Tragedy 3.
Yeah.
So thank you to those who um bought that book, I did not expect the response to be so positive, just because like when you release a book, like for indies or just books in general, you expect the first one to go out more, and then sales usually go down. But it's like, no, like I came back home with only one copy of that issue 3 left.
Wow.
And I've got more here, but like it's been more than what I've been expecting.
No,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, I'm really happy about that, and people are digging it. So right now the goal is to get issue 4 out by Fan Expo timeframe in August, because I'll be at that show. And then other stuff coming up. So after this, okay, so Cauldron magazine had a hardcover campaign recently. There should be another one coming after that. So last we talked, I am part of the next story, and I'm currently working on a story for them. So
Sweet.
yeah. More of a sci-fi horror, but it's still like the same, if you read my work, you know what to expect. So
Awesome.
yeah. And anything else? Working on other stuff I can't talk about with Martin Slam Duncan and Danny Harrell potentially. But yeah, just if you follow me on socials and whatever, you'll see it.
And if someone wants to buy the books, they can do it at thebecca.com. Is that the site to go to? All right.
Yep. You can buy it at thebecca.com/shop. And I've got art prints as well. And my books are also in places like Studio Comics Press and the Hero's Tale comic shop in Cambridge, downtown Preston. And I will be at their 1-year anniversary event on April 13th, along with Mike Ruth, Stephanie Cook, Jason Lowe, and a bunch of other artists like Keith Gratchow and Martin again, and other people I can't remember. That's awesome. Yeah, it's gonna be a great time. There'll be cupcakes.
Oh, say no more. If I were in the area, I'd be there.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, maybe next time I'm down that way, I'd like to try to connect with some of the people I've talked to in the show at some point. So I'll drop you a line.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was great chatting with you. Thanks for being on the show, Becca.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andre.
Much appreciated. Catch you next time.
Yep.
All right.
Take care. Bye.
There was my discussion with Becka Kinzie. Very cool chat. As you can see, we have a lot in common when it comes to movies, and also quite a few holes in horror movie watching that each other have explained that we need to fill. So I got a bunch of movies to watch, and I'm excited to do so. Hopefully she'll watch some of the ones that I suggested as well. But also just cool talents. Cool meeting Canadian comic talent doing their thing, doing their own books, doing it their own way, and Becca's definitely one of them. So big thanks to her for coming on the show, and big thanks to you for listening. Be sure to tune in next week for another fun-filled episode. I normally tell you who that is, but I don't have the thing open in front of me, and I don't feel like opening it. So you're just going to have to wait or pay attention to social media. But if I recall correctly, it's yet another cool guest. So be sure to tune in to another fun-filled episode next week. But in the meantime, stay safe, have fun. And hey, why don't you go read a few comic books? Why don't you? Come on. Do it. Do it. Do it. The Graphic Histories Podcast is a proud partner of the United Federation of Podcasts.